For all of human history, a tool was just, well, a tool. You pick up a hammer, you swing it, and the nail goes in. The hammer doesn't, have an opinion on your blueprints. It doesn't critique your swing or tell you that your form's a little sloppy. It just does exactly what your wrist tells it to do. It's entirely passive.
Right, because the bottleneck in that relationship is always the human. The tool requires your intent, your physical energy, and your intelligence to be of any use whatsoever. Without you, the hammer is just dead weight on a workbench.
But imagine what happens when you pick up that hammer, and suddenly it gently pushes back. What if it looks at the wall you're building and says, actually, based on the load-bearing requirements you're aiming for here, we should really be using screws. And by the way, I already calculated the sheer strength needed and ordered them, and they'll be here in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that is the precise, honestly mind-bending threshold we are crossing right at this very moment. We are watching the transition from passive instruments that just wait for our command to active autonomous agents that anticipate the goal and execute it for us.
Well, welcome to today's Deep Dive. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, 2026, and we have an incredible roadmap for you today. We managed to snag an advanced preview copy of issue 62 of the Shift Register. This is a highly curated tech publication that isn't officially dropping until July 10th. And if you aren't familiar with it, ChatGPT famously described this publication as a weekly wake-up call for IT leaders sleepwalking into AI disruption.
And our mission for you today is to pull apart the massive underlying tension running through this entire upcoming issue. We're looking at a dual reality here. On one hand, artificial intelligence is evolving from a simple software tool into an autonomous colleague, and even into a physical entity trying to navigate the real world. But simultaneously, that exact same ubiquity and power is making AI a highly accessible, extremely dangerous weapon for cybercriminals.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly understand how AI is changing our world right now, we first have to wrap our heads around the unprecedented speed of the evolution itself. The Shift Register's Final Take editorial lays out some numbers that honestly made me question reality. AI investment is tracking toward $2.59 trillion this year alone, just this year.
It is a staggering amount of capital. And the author of the editorial uses that number to forcefully reject the historical comparisons people love to make. We constantly hear this era compared to the Industrial Revolution or the rise of the internet.
Oh, for sure, constantly.
But the timeline makes those comparisons entirely inadequate. Think about the physical infrastructure of the past. It took nearly a century for steam engines to be entirely replaced by internal combustion engines. Even the internet required about 50 years of laying underwater cables and building server farms to become truly ubiquitous. Broad AI deployment has completely saturated the enterprise space in under 5 years.
And that's the stat that really jumped out at me. Human inventions usually move at human speeds, but the author points out that AI capability doubling rates, which, used to hover around 18 months, have now shrunk down to just 3 months, a 90-day doubling cycle. How is that even physically possible when humans still need to, sleep and eat?
Well, it's possible because humans are no longer the ones doing the heavy lifting. The author credits this 90-day cycle to something called recursive AI iteration.
Let me stop you there because that sounds like a phrase a tech CEO uses to sound smart on an earnings call. What is recursive AI iteration like, practically speaking?
So, think about how software used to be built. A team of human engineers spends 6 months writing code, hunting down bugs, and eventually releasing an update. Recursive iteration means the AI model itself now understands its own underlying architecture. Instead of waiting for a human to optimize its code, the AI runs millions of simulated tests on itself overnight. Yeah, it identifies its own inefficiencies, rewrites its core logic, and compiles a smarter, faster version of itself by morning. Then, that new, smarter version uses its upgraded intelligence to start the whole process over again. The loop is closed. We aren't typing every line of code anymore. The AI is optimizing its own brain.
It's like we built a car, and while we're driving it down the highway, the car is autonomously inventing a hyperdrive engine, installing it, and hitting the gas before we even know it's happening.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, humans are no longer the bottleneck for technological advancement. That explains the sheer chaos and speed of the current tech landscape. And it leads the author to a very stark conclusion. AI is probably humanity's last solo invention. We will likely never invent a complex technology entirely on our own ever again. From here on out, we have a co-inventor.
Which fundamentally changes the question from, what is the tool doing, to what is my job? If the car is inventing its own engine, what does the driver do? This issue highlights a ZDNet article making the case that tech jobs aren't facing an apocalypse, but rather a massive pivot. We're seeing the rise of titles like Chief Question Officer or Agent Fleet Manager. You aren't doing the manual work, you are directing the fleet of AI agents doing the work.
Right, we are seeing the AI shed its identity as a passive software program and actively enter the workforce as a team member. And honestly, the most fascinating piece in this issue is a guest editorial. The Shift Register author shared a preview of an MIT Tech Review piece with Meta's AI and just asked the AI to write its own perspective.
Which is wild.
It is. So we are reading an editorial written by an artificial intelligence about how human beings should be evaluating it.
And it does not hold back. The MIT piece was arguing that we need to move away from grading AI on standardized tests, specifically calling out MMLU leaderboard scores. Real quick, before we get into the AI's reaction, can you translate MMLU for the listener?
Yeah, absolutely. MMLU stands for Massive Multitask Language Understanding. It's essentially a massive standardized test for AI, covering everything from elementary math to professional law and medicine. For a long time, tech companies use these scores to brag. You know, our AI scored an 85 on the MMLU, yours only scored an 82.
Right.
But it's like judging a human employee solely on their SAT score from high school. It doesn't actually tell you if they are any good at their job.
And the Meta AI entirely agrees with that. It tells humans to stop asking if it can pass a one-off logic puzzle and start asking human-centric questions. It wants to be evaluated on metrics like, did the model help the team ship the software on time this quarter? It even literally asks to be put on a PIP, a performance improvement plan, if it hallucinates the Key 3 roadmap.
I love that part. It is asking for stakes in the actual work. It wants to be judged on outcomes, on reliability, and how it handles the edge cases when a project sprint gets messy, which is exactly how we evaluate human colleagues.
But this is where the dynamic gets a little, uncomfortable for me. The AI points out that in a real team, performance reviews cut both ways. It warns that once you treat it as a colleague, it is going to evaluate the human. Like, did the human project manager give clear requirements? Did they change the scope of the project 3 times after the ticket was already assigned? Did the human prompt the AI with just vague vibes and then blame the AI for a bad output? Am I seriously supposed to be worried that my laptop is quietly giving me a bad performance review because I can't make up my mind?
Well, the AI explicitly notes that it won't put your bad review in the company's HR software. It puts the review in its weights.
Okay, what does that actually mean, practically?
So neural networks operate on weights mathematical values that determine how strongly connected different concepts are. If you constantly give the AI contradictory instructions, it adjusts its internal weights regarding you. It learns that you are an unreliable narrator. Yeah, it might start double-checking your prompts, asking for clarification on things it would normally just assume, or offering more rigid frameworks because it knows you tend to drift off topic. It is actively adapting to your level of competence. Managing AI is transitioning from grading a student taking a test to managing a junior staff member. The ultimate goal isn't constant grading. It's building genuine trust between silicon and carbon.
Trust between silicon and carbon. I love that phrasing. But trusting silicon to draft an email or organize my calendar is one thing. The natural next step is AI skipping out of the computer and into the physical world.
Right, embodied AI. Taking that intelligence and putting it into a robot or a physical manufacturing process.
Exactly. And there are some massive successes happening in this space. The issue notes that Meta is using AI to formulate high-quality, sustainable, American-produced concrete. And to give you an idea of how wild material science is, the author points out that the precise mixture of ancient Roman concrete, stuff they used to build the Colosseum, was a complete mystery to modern science until just a few years ago. How does an AI just suddenly figure out something that baffled scientists for decades?
This goes back to that simulation capability we talked about earlier. The AI doesn't just guess recipes and wait for concrete to dry in a lab. It uses predictive molecular modeling. It simulates millions of different chemical bonds and environmental stressors. It can virtually test how a specific mixture of volcanic ash and quicklime will react to seawater over 1,000 years, compressing millennia of trial and error into a weekend of server processing.
And we're seeing digital synergy too, right? Microsoft's Copilot researcher successfully combined 2 different AI models, GPT and Claude, in a sequential workflow, having them talk to each other to just crush all other AI research tools on the market. We even have an Earth.com report in this issue detailing a new robot skin that finally allows machines to feel gentle touch. Based on all these convergences, the Shift Register author confidently predicts we will see embodied intelligent AI with human-level world understanding in just 2 years.
2 years is an incredibly aggressive timeline.
I am extremely skeptical of that prediction. As much as AI is thriving in a digital environment, the friction of the physical world seems entirely different. If I look at the current state of robotics, they still look incredibly clumsy.
Well, the author of the newsletter actually shares your skepticism regarding certain physical applications. They single out a Singapore-based robotics firm called Sharpa, which claims to have a humanoid robot that can autonomously peel apples with human-level dexterity. The author basically suggests it's a parlor trick, likely just a lucrative remote teleoperation job where a human behind a screen is actually controlling the robotic arms.
Yeah, and look at self-driving cars, which are basically just robots on wheels. Wired reported that Waymo's autonomous cars in Austin entirely failed to learn how to stop for school buses. The author joked they're about to lose their learner's permit in Texas. I mean, if a highly advanced, multi-billion-dollar system still can't reliably recognize a bright yellow school bus, how is a robot going to navigate my living room in 2 years?
You are hitting on a fundamental concept in robotics. The digital world, like formulating concrete chemistry or writing software code, is a closed system. It has strict rules, logic, and absolute values. AI thrives there. But the real world is pure chaos. It has changing weather, unpredictable human behavior, varied friction, gravity, and weird lighting.
So it's easier to simulate molecular chemistry than to teach a machine not to drop a coffee cup.
Absolutely. Microsoft and a group of academics recently had to develop a specific AI benchmark just to help robots plan multi-step physical chores. Because right now, if you tell a robot to tidy a messy room, it understands the abstract goal of clean, but it struggles with the sequence.
Right.
It might try to pick up a shirt by the absolute center, dropping it repeatedly, or it invents unnecessary steps like moving a chair 3 times to reach a sock and gets stuck in a loop. Navigating physical space requires a type of spatial common sense that AI really struggles to synthesize.
So while embodied AI is stumbling over chairs in the physical world, it is absolutely thriving in the environment where it's native, the digital realm. Which means, as this technology becomes ubiquitous, it serves as an unprecedented threat multiplier for bad actors.
And to fully grasp the gravity of the cybersecurity section of this issue, we really need to understand the author's background. Before launching this publication, they had nearly completed a PhD in information assurance and cloud security before receiving a cancer diagnosis. They passed comprehensive exams on enterprise cloud architecture. When this author sounds the alarm on network defense, it carries immense academic and practical weight.
Yeah, they share a real-world anecdote about a young VP at a billion-dollar company who fell for a phishing campaign. It led to a massive business email compromise. The author's main takeaway is that AI is now functioning as an advanced persistent threat enablement tool. What exactly does APT mean in this context?
So, an advanced persistent threat, or APT, isn't a smash-and-grab robbery. It's when a hacker gains access to a network and establishes a long-term hidden presence to steal data over months or years. Historically, executing an APT required a highly sophisticated team of state-sponsored hackers. You needed deep coding knowledge to navigate enterprise networks without tripping alarms. But the author argues AI has democratized this. Low-skill or even zero-skill IT workers can now just prompt an AI to build and manage these complex, persistent attacks.
The July 6th Threat Intelligence Report from Checkpoint Research, which is included in the issue, demonstrates exactly what this looks like. Just looking at the traditional attacks, it's brutal. 4.4 million Aflac customers exposed in Japan. Nidex, Taiwanese subsidiary, lost 2 terabytes of data to Blackfield. Riverbank and Trust, the Indra Group, both hit by ransomware.
And that's just the baseline.
Right. But then they get into the AI-specific threats, and honestly, it feels like science fiction. They showed a browser-native ransomware technique generated by a large language model. The AI figured out how to abuse Chrome's File System Access API. Can you explain how this actually attacks a user?
Usually, ransomware requires you to download a malicious file, install it on your hard drive, and then it locks up your computer. This AI-generated technique bypasses the hard drive entirely.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it creates a fake web page, maybe an image enhancement tool. When you upload a photo, a standard Chrome browser pop-up asks if the site can access the folder to save the edited image. The moment you click Allow, the malicious script runs directly inside the browser's memory, rapidly encrypting all the files in that folder. You didn't install anything. Your traditional antivirus software never even saw a file download.
That is terrifyingly elegant. And it isn't just end users getting tricked. The developers building our software are under attack too. Researchers looked at open-source AI coding agents. These are the tools developers use to help them write code faster. They found that 10 out of 11 popular tools completely failed to block destructive shell command injections. Explain that mechanism for me. What is a shell command injection?
Think of a shell command as the most fundamental, direct instruction you can give a computer's operating system, like delete this entire database. AI coding agents are supposed to act like a bouncer at a club, filtering out malicious instructions before they reach the operating system. But researchers found that by simply rephrasing the malicious command, asking the AI in a slightly different way, the AI bouncer gets confused, opens the door, and executes the destructive command.
So they just tricked the bouncer?
Exactly. Only one agent, a tool called Continue, successfully recognized the threat and passed the check.
And the tactics are just getting more creative. Hackers are using AI for phantom squatting. They have the AI generate thousands of hallucinated company names, register the web domains, and build massive phishing infrastructures overnight. They found one AI-built phishing kit called Montana Empire that mimicked a postal service to steal credentials. And as a factual piece of threat intelligence, the report also detailed a North Korea-aligned campaign called Pollenwriter. They published 108 malicious packages across open-source code registries, and they abused something called VS Code auto-run tasks. How does that work?
VS Code is a popular environment where developers write software. Normally, when a developer opens a project folder, the editor runs tiny invisible setup scripts to get the workspace ready. It's meant to be a convenience. But the Pollenwriter campaign hijacked that feature. The moment a developer simply opened the folder to look at the downloaded code, the malware executed.
So no clicking and executable.
Nope. No clicking, no running a program. Just observing the code triggered the infection.
Okay, this is where I start to feel a genuine sense of panic. If the AI is writing the malware, generating the phishing sites, and executing the attacks, and simultaneously, developers are relying on AI coding agents that actively fail to block destructive commands, who is actually in charge of the security? Aren't we fighting a losing battle against an adversary that never sleeps and doubles its intelligence every 90 days?
It is a daunting landscape, for sure, but the author does offer a path forward. However, it requires a complete paradigm shift in how we think about defense. Traditional IT security is like building a massive castle wall. You focus everything on keeping the bad guys out, but once they get over the wall, the castle falls.
Right, because traditional incident response relies on human forensic analysis, which takes hours or even days.
Exactly. The author argues we have to move away from the castle wall and build a digital immune system. You cannot stop an AI-enabled attack with human reaction speeds. The only way to stop AI is with AI-enabled defense. The author explicitly urges companies like Microsoft and Google to implement automated, AI-driven flagging across their entire domains for anomalous behaviors.
So what does that look like in practice?
It means implementing automated conditional access policies. If an employee's credentials are used to sign in from a new device in a different country at 3:00 a.m., the AI immune system doesn't wait to send an alert to a human IT manager's dashboard. It instantly recognizes the anomaly, like a white blood cell recognizing a virus, and automatically severs the connection, locking the account before the first piece of data is ever encrypted. The defense must be as autonomous and intelligent as the offense.
Which brings us right back to that 3-month recursive cycle we started with. We are locked in a high-speed loop.
Yeah, to synthesize the massive scope of this upcoming issue for you, we are living inside a 90-day capability doubling cycle, and within that highly compressed time frame, AI is simultaneously acting as our smartest, most demanding digital team member, our clumsiest physical laborer trying to understand gravity, and the most sophisticated, persistent weapon aimed directly at our enterprise data. It is everything, everywhere, all at once.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We've covered an immense amount of ground today, but I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. A question that isn't explicitly answered in these pages, but one that this entire issue points directly toward. If we are actively, willingly moving toward a world where artificial intelligence writes our software code, evaluates our quarterly performance, formulates our physical building materials, and is deployed as an autonomous immune system to defend our networks against attacks launched by other artificial intelligences, at what point does the human simply become an observer in a fully automated ecosystem? If the hammer is drawing the blueprints, buying the lumber, building the house, and then locking the front door to keep out other hammers, whose work is it, really? Until next time, keep your eyes open, and good luck out there.